After purchasing two Apache women who were being sold like animals, the cowboy declared, "I'll take you home." That morning, the rain had been falling sideways and hadn't stopped for several hours. Outside Sheriff Calloway's barn, where a makeshift auction cage had been erected using 3 fence posts and a decaying wooden bench, the ground was drenched with mud. The echoes of men's voices and spitting laughter caused the horses to stand tensely in the rain, their ears twitching. The residents of the town, primarily ranchers and rail workers who were overindulging in liquor, stood huddled under trees, clutching cigarettes and making pathetic offers for stolen pelts, rusting tools, and broken saddles. However, the red-faced and obese sheriff then pulled forward something far more vicious. 2 sisters, Apache girls. One was a young girl, no more than 15, with black hair that was matted and shaking with fever. She was as little as a willow branch. Even though the rain had soaked her long skirt and gotten into her bones, the other taller person, who was possibly 24 years old, remained tall and dry-eyed. She never once let her chin fall. When the sheriff pushed her in the direction of the fence, she didn't flinch. "These two," he growled, "are from the Arctic. M was discovered by orphans hiding in an abandoned station house. Quiet, wild, and able to be cleaned up for housekeeping. Good deal now, no assurances future." With their boots squeaking in the mud, the men laughed. One said the older one was too arrogant to clean floors, while another vowed that if you held the reins for long enough, she would shatter like a horse. Only one voice could be heard. "I'll have both of them." The patter of rain on hat brims was the only sound to break the silence. The speaker had a big chest, was tall and wore leather and simple canvas clothing. A tattered coat was hung over one shoulder. He was Thomas Cade, and it had been weeks since he had last spoken to anyone in that town. She blinked. "The sheriff. What are you?" Cade moved forward. On the crate next to him, he placed a single silver coin. "Stop chatting. Only the coin. Now they accompany me on my rides." Cena's eyes narrowed as she considered whether to be more afraid of him than the others, or to trust him. She had good reason to be skeptical. He didn't say anything more until they were in his wagon, half pelted with the rain starting to stop, and the wheels rumbling through soggy prairie grass. With pale lips and a continuous but silent cough, the younger sister snuggled up and fell asleep. Cena didn't move. Coldly, "You buy slaves?" she inquired. "No," he answered, continuing to focus on the road. "I purchase peace." Her head was cocked. "Do you think we'll make you feel at ease?" He gave a shrug. "Perhaps you will, but not just yet." What sort of man would say that? West of the main trail at his cabin, a simple structure made of pine. After assisting Tula in getting down the wagon, he gestured toward the front chamber. When he said, "You take the bed. You too. I'm going to remain in the barn." Cena furrowed her brows. "Why?" "It's decent." So he stopped at the doorway and walked out without saying anything more. The days that followed were calm and filled with waiting. At night, Cena continued to wear her boots. She only slept for a few hours at most. In her fever, Tula let out a cry. Though he didn't say much, Thomas brought fresh herbs and broths from the woods every day. A cedar comb was on the table when Cena woke up one morning, a carved spoon on a different day. Small presents with no justifications. She was unsure if she should accept them or toss them in the fire. They were not welcomed in the town. The rumors started as soon as they rode into Dawson's store to get wheat and salt. Women separated from their kids. Mrs. Rowan, an elderly widow, whispered behind her scarf, "It is shameful that he has brought them to his doorstep in monstrous form." Cena felt humiliated and burned. With her teeth clenched, she turned and went for her sister's hand. The counter clerk would not glance up. "We don't provide services." A silver dollar was placed on the counter by Cade as he moved forward. Alongside me, he had previously stood like a wall in the face of cruelty. Cena didn't thank him, though. She swept the cabin more vigorously than usual that evening, repeatedly removing the same patch of ash. She fixed her sister's shawl, fixed the curtain's loose hem, and kept herself occupied with hands that shook from things she didn't say. Cade eyed her with those unfathomable eyes while polishing a nail in the corner. "You're not a servant," he finally stated. She raised her head, her brow dripping with perspiration. "So what am I?" "You are a visitor." She looked away once more, but something shifted in her chest. Maybe a remembrance of the mother who used to call her Wind's daughter and braid her hair, of her father's singing in the evening while he carved arrow shafts. Since they were abducted, she had never experienced tranquility. However, something akin to safety started to blossom in this man's stillness. Tula's cough got worse one evening. Her skin was as hot as coal. In a panic, Sienna ran helplessly from room to room. Without saying a word, Kate saddled his horse and rode through the pitch-black forest, following her instincts and the moonlight. With boiled tea leaves, willow bark, and an elderly mountain healer, he returned to daybreak drenched and shivering. Tula's fever broke by dusk. Sitting next to her, Sina brushed the girl's wet hair away from her cheek. From the doorway, Cade observed. They looked at each other. She got up, approached him, and touched his arm. "Thank you," she said in a whisper. All he did was nod. Weeks went by. The snow came in huge, silent sheets. It transformed the woodland into a silver cathedral and softened the sharp edges of the hills. Tula learned how to thread kindling from Cade. Sena started caring for the hens. She and he would occasionally sit opposite each other by the fire in the stillness of the evening, each engrossed in their own thoughts, but bound by an unseen force. Without saying anything, he would offer her the last piece of bread. Before dawn, she would place a repaired glove on his workstation. Until one evening, they never explained the meaning of these gestures. The flames went out. In the adjacent room, Tula was dozing off. Sina was able to sense his warmth from her seat. She remarked, "You could have left us. Why didn't you?" He avoided looking at her. Did not wish to. "That's easy." He inhaled deeply. "I didn't realize I was purchasing my own peace when I bought you." She opened her mouth. Her face briefly flashed, with agony. "I apologize," he added. "You're not mine. You weren't. That's not how I meant it." She got up and hurried out of the room. The door behind her clicked. He didn't comply. However, when she visited him the following evening, she saw him fixing a bridle in the barn while the lantern was shining on his face in a golden hue. She said, "If we aren't yours," quietly, "so why ride in a storm just to bark?" At first, he remained silent. Then, even if you had despised me, I would still have done it. She took a step forward. "I'm not hostile toward you," she muttered. The frigid air became foggy as their breath hung between them. He swiveled in her direction. "You're stronger than anyone I've ever met," he said. Sina's throat grew constricted. She went to the bridegroom and removed it from his grasp. She answered, "I can finish that." The sheriff arrived in the morning. As arrogant as ever, he stood on the porch and chewed a sprig of grass. He remarked, "You didn't sign the paper. They remain on the unclaimed list. I could take some of them back elsewhere. No one would stop me." Cade moved forward. "I would halt you. You'd shoot a police officer." Cade's gaze hardened. "You are not the law. You're a vulture." He put his hand on his holster, the sheriff said. Sina showed up at the door. She said, "You won't touch us this time." Tula was standing behind her carrying a hatchet. The sheriff saw something he couldn't touch when he glanced at them, at the woman behind him and the man in front of him. Muttering, he turned and galloped away. The fire was low that night. Sina folded her hands and sat next to Cade. He produced a leather-wrapped object from behind the bench, A smooth, pale ring engraved with feathers and pine leaves was found within, made from antler. His voice wavered as he replied, "I don't want to own you. However, I would be honored if you remained my wife." Her lips parted as she gazed at the ring. Then she turned to face him. She clasped his hand and said, "You already gave me a home." Tula served as a witness to their marriage amid the sparse winter trees. No preacher, no townfolk, just the wind, the pines, and a love born for mercy. Sina donned a necklace made of her mother's shell. Cade was wearing a brand-new shirt that she had made herself. She stroked his cheek and remarked, "You are not a man who buys women," as snowflakes softly fell all around them. "You are a soul-saving man." Sena sung softly and lowly that evening when the soil shone with the fire. Her mother used to sing a lullaby to the breeze. Under a blanket, Tula slept curled up. Cade closed his eyes and listened. He felt complete, and she felt human for the first time in years. A final thought for the audience. CTA and a Poetic Life. Lesson. Love isn't always loud. It occasionally enters on silent boots and offers a blanket rather than a guarantee. And sometimes the best homes are made of kindness, firelight, and patience rather than timber. Click the next story on the screen. If this one made you feel silent, it is more profound than this one ever ventured. Proceed.